What's up, world? Jeff Lerner here. I want to talk to you today about how rich people manage their money. In the early 80s, Forbes did a study on all the millionaires in the United States, and about a third of all the millionaires in the early 80s were self-made millionaires. That means 2/3 of all the millionaires basically inherited their money. Fast forward to now, I guess Forbes updated their study in 2012 and it was over 70%. Now in 2019, it's almost 80% of all millionaires in the United States are self-made millionaires. That means they didn't inherit their money. It wasn't about going to some special school. It wasn't about who they knew growing up or being part of some privileged network. 4 out of 5 millionaires now, 4 out of 5 rich people make their own money. They figure it out on their own. They have all the same handicaps as the rest of us. Uh-oh, what was that? That was the sound of everybody's excuses walking out of the room. What just happened to all of our excuses? 4 out of 5 wealthy people in this country are self-made. They didn't have any special advantage growing up. It wasn't about the color of their skin. It wasn't about what their parents did for a living. It wasn't about where they grew up. It wasn't about what school they went to. It wasn't about being forced into some career so they could get a job where their daddy works or whatever. It wasn't nepotism. It was all that stuff out the window. In the last 35 years, it's all gone out the window. We don't have excuses anymore. What we have are choices. We have behaviors. This is sociological data. This isn't just my opinion. I'm just the messenger here. But whatever excuse you're telling yourself, whatever compromise you're selling yourself, you are misled if you believe that there is something stopping you. But again, there's choices, there's behavior. So let's look at the choices and the behaviors that rich people, successful people make around money. Because here's the thing, now, not before, but now, rich people aren't rich because they have money. Rich people are rich because they got money. They went and got it. They brought it into their sphere. It wasn't given to them. They had to go get it. So how did they get it? That's what I want to talk about. First of all, rich people value cash flow over cash. One of the most telltale symptoms of an impoverished mindset is that when you get cash, you want to hoard it. You want to save it. You want to stick it under a mattress. That cash isn't doing anything for you under a mattress. It's dead. It's losing money against inflation. The real cost of living in this country goes up, like, depending on what studies, what data you look at, anywhere from like 4 to 7% a year. So that money stuck under a mattress that you're holding on to, that piggy bank money, is losing 4 to 7% of its buying power every year. It's about cash flow. What can you do with your cash to put it to work for you to create cash flow? This is why I love real estate so much. Real estate's one of the only investments simultaneously can generate major cash flow and major appreciation. You put your money into stocks, yeah, you might earn some dividends, but typically if you put your money into high dividend stocks, they're going to be lower growth stocks because they're paying out so much cash in the form of dividends. Or if you go after high growth stocks, those companies are usually in a reinvestment mode where they're not paying out dividends. Residential or commercial for that matter. Residential is a little easier for a lot of people to access. Real estate can pay you cash flow and appreciation. Cash flow over cash. Do not hoard cash, hoard cash flow. That's one of the key success principles of wealthy, successful people. Next is what I call forced investment. A lot of people are familiar with forced savings. The concept of, every month when I get paid, I'm going to take $100 and I'm going to automatically transfer it to a savings account. A lot of banks will let you set up these forced savings vehicles with the checking, and they say, oh, if you open a savings account and you set up a regular weekly or monthly transfer, then we'll give you a free no fee savings account or something. Okay, your savings account, even a bank money market account, is paying you like 0.5%, maybe 1%, maybe 1.5% if you're at some really aggressive bank that's got a big promotion going on. Remember, cost of living goes up 4 to 7% a year. If you're earning 1%, even 2%, even 3% on your money, you're losing money just against the increases in the cost of milk and eggs and power, air conditioning, and all the stuff that we pay for to live. You're losing money if you're not making at least 5% on your money. And 5% isn't savings returns. 5% is investing returns. So you got to make forced investment. It's not enough to just force yourself to save some money. You got to take that money and see it all the way through the channel to where it can be invested. And one of my favorite vehicles for this, I mentioned real estate, but another vehicle that I really, really like for this is life insurance. It's a certain way of approaching whole life. And this isn't meant to be a video about this concept called self-banking, but I encourage you to look it up and learn more about it. This concept where you can take your money, pass it all the way through to a life insurance policy where it builds cash value. You can borrow it back if you need it against the death benefit. So it's not money you gotta owe it back right now. It's guaranteed by the death benefit of the insurance. The point is, every dollar that runs through that flow locks in at the dividend of the whole life company. So, typically anywhere from 4 to 6% guaranteed on the entire channel of money that goes through, but you can still access that money. If I go to buy a car, I don't borrow money from the bank. I borrow money from myself and I pay myself back at interest. Meanwhile, the principal that I borrowed out is still earning a dividend as great or greater than the rate of inflation. So all the money that flows through that channel essentially becomes a forced investment. Again, this is not meant to be a video about this strategy, but it's an example of how you can't just settle for having a little bit of money go sit on some dusty shelf somewhere earning 1% and think that you're getting ahead in this world. You're not. Forced investment, not just forced savings. The next habit, the next practice that wealthy people have around money is that they're very, very clear. A guy that I love his writing. I love his teaching. I love, all the things he says. T. Harv Eker, he's one of my favorite books, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He talks about this all the time. Rich people, we're crystal clear that we want money. We want more money. We want more. We don't just want the money we have. We want more money. We recognize that wealth is not a static thing. Wealth is either expanding or it's dying. That's the nature of the world we live in, because there's more money being printed, things cost more. If you have a family, there's gonna always be more and more people to take care of. There's gonna be a bigger fixed base of capital required to do the things that are exciting, from an investment perspective or from being able to take care of people perspective. And frankly, every dollar lands with someone. It's gonna land with you or it's gonna land with someone else. If you're a good person, you should believe there's a moral responsibility for those dollars to land with you, because you're going to put them to good use. It's a whole mindset around the fact that unapologetically, unabashedly, if you are wealthy, it's because you have made a decision to want more wealth and to do what's necessary to accrue it. The world wants to make a judgment around that, but it's not a judgment that's based on any logical ethic. It's a judgment that's based on pettiness, jealousy, this false sense of it being unfair, as if you have money, it means somehow you cheated. That's based on other people's insecurities. That's not a real ethic. The fact is, you have a moral and ethical responsibility, I believe, to accrue wealth and to put it to good practice in this world. Because frankly, economics dictates that the money supply is growing and our cost basis for life is growing. If our wealth isn't growing, we're losing. We're losing even by staying the same, right? And you have to be crystal clear that you want more wealth or you're never gonna get it. Write it down. Write down your goals for your net worth. These are my assets. Most of us can know what our liabilities are. So if you wanna have a $500,000 net worth, it means you gotta get your liabilities down or you gotta get your assets up. The difference between your assets and your liabilities, that's your net worth. Write it down. What's it gonna be by the end of this year? What's it gonna be by the following year? What's your plan? How are you using forced investment? How are you creating cash flow that's ultimately going to allow you to get there, right? And the best way to create more cash flow is to increase your income. See, a lot of people are fixated on reducing their expenses because they act like income is something that has a ceiling. Get a side hustle, start a business, do something else with your time that's more profitable than watching television, watching sports, hanging out at poker night, going to see movies, whatever all the stuff you do. We're all given the same amount of time. What are rich people doing with their time? The 80% that are now self-made. They didn't inherit the money. Remember, that excuse went out the window. And the final thing that rich people do to be good with money, they talk to other rich people. If I want to know how to get more money or how to take the money that I have and grow it into more money, who am I going to talk to? Somebody else who's got the same priorities, who's demonstrated in their own life a track record of having the same priorities and getting a successful outcome at the thing that I want to do. First of all, if you're getting financial advice from people that don't have the money you want, why on earth would you do that? Secondly, if you're getting financial advice from people who think that money's a bad thing or they act like it's a dirty thing or they're not crystal clear on the fact that accruing more wealth is actually the only real method of thriving in this world, of even surviving in this world, because you're losing even just by staying the same over time. If you're not dealing with people that are crystal clear about that, you're probably not getting good advice. Don't be afraid. If you find somebody who seems really, really successful in your life, go up to them, ask them, say, hey, could I buy you lunch? Could I beg 30 minutes of your time to give you 5 minutes of my situation and sit back and take notes for 25 minutes of your response and your advice? You got to talk to rich people. That's why people say, oh, rich people are snooty or elitist, or they put walls up or they go to their country clubs. What they do is they facilitate environments where they can share and they can collaborate. And in my experience, and this is from somebody who was not always successful. There was a time in my life, I had an entire decade of my life, I never made more than $40,000 in a year. When I was a single guy, I lived in a house with 3 other roommates, a small house, 4 dudes, each paying a few $100 a month in rent. I've been there. You got to find the people that have the result that you want, and don't be afraid to ask them to share their insight with you. In my experience, I used to play piano in people's houses. I was a piano player for hire. I was fortunate to play gigs at the homes of multiple hundreds of millionaires and even a few billionaires. And I got to actually talk to them and mingle with them and say, look, I'm You know, I'm a 24-year-old piano player. I'm saving my tip jar money. Like, help me. What can I do? And they're not jerks. Because money is important to them, because they've made it a priority in their life, they actually like talking about it. And if you're around somebody who's got the expertise at a thing that you want to pursue, why would you not want to take advantage and have that conversation, right? I was able to get financial advice from some of the wealthiest people around, like literal billionaires. I consider myself so blessed and so grateful for that experience. But the fact is, a lot of other piano players played in their houses and they never asked them the questions. You know, I guess I had the gumption to do that. And a lot of what I've been able to do in the last 10 years, I've done on the basis of not only things that they told me, things that I learned from talking, but from actually observing how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they answer questions, their bearing, their confidence, the way they deliver, the way they communicate. There's something comprehensive and deep and saturating you when you get crystal clear about what you really want in this world. Go hang out with some really, really successful people and you're gonna see what confidence and poise looks like. And you can hate on them. You can act like they did something wrong to get where they are. But when you actually get around them and you open your mind, you go, man, there's a lot here. I can learn a lot. But you got to be open to that, all right? Anyway, that's my lesson today on how rich people manage money. And really, it's not only how they manage money, how they manage themselves and what they expect from themselves. Anyway, I hope that brings some value to your life. Remember, life is meant to be awesome. I'll see you on the next video.